So this is Fallout 4 Sex Percent. I did this run offline, so there was no commentary, and I don't know. I feel weird uploading some speedruns, some categories without commentary. So I don't think I've ever posted or anyone's ever posted a video explaining the tricks that go into Sex Percent. But if you're pretty up to date with strats in any percent, Sex Percent's pretty simple in terms of tech. But figured I would go through and do it anyways, since it hasn't been done before, similar to what I did with Warp Percent. So yeah, I'll just hop in and talk about random stuff.
Lass mich mal kurz daran.
So at the start, I don't start right away. Like I choose preset 3. I've always picked presets 3 for male and female, just out of preference. But I pick it in a certain way to delay enough time so that it manipulates where Codsworth stands, and it saves like a second if you get it right. For this one, I think it's ended up saving a second, but it doesn't really matter. For the entire house, you pretty much just walk around and wait for certain triggers to activate. The first one is Codsworth will he'll stop doing the dishes, and he'll start walking to go and check on Sean, who started crying. And normally he turns away to go check on Sean at like 29 seconds, and it looks like this time the manipulation didn't really do anything. It's not really something people do, but I was like, may as well attempt it. So I had to talk to Codsworth and then talk to Nora real quick. That's the second trigger, is talking to Nora. So now the next trigger, the next thing that I have to do to progress in pre-war is talk to the Vault Tech rep. And what I'm going to do is pretty much pick out my stats and whatnot. So it's a matter of waiting until about like a minute 10-ish. What he does is he is at the house across the street, and he actually finishes up there as soon as right around the time the TV guy actually starts talking, the newscaster. So when we talk to the Vault Tech rep, you just like mash all the down options because it's the fastest to get to pretty much progress the dialogue with him. In any percent, there's a couple dialogues that we pick different dialogue options, other than just down because it's faster. Like the dialogue is shorter, but for this guy it's just all 4, all bottom. And then for stats, put 4 into endurance, 10 into charisma, and 10 into agility. Normally we put, in any percent, we put 10 into endurance and 10 into agility, because those are the 2 stats directly related to how long you can run for. But for this we need to pass 3 speech checks, so we need 10 charisma. So we put 4 into endurance, and the reason why we put 4 into endurance rather than 4 into agility is we're going to be using VATS, I think twice during this run, and agility directly influences the amount of action points you have. So having more action points makes it easier to pretty much time out, or pretty much like manage our VATS. So like it's possible to be sprinting for a while and then attempt to use VATS, but you'll be out of AP, so you can't do it. So by having more AP, it makes it easier to just manage it, make sure you can always do what you need to do. So I've been advancing the quest triggers and whatnot. I had to go talk to Codsworth in Sean's room, and then coddle Sean and talk to Nora a bit. And now what we're going to be doing is running and entering the vault. And if you've seen the previous Sex Percent record that I had, or Gingenia's run, then you'll notice that Sex Percent is in not Russian. Wow, I'm YouTube comments. Sex Percent's in German. The reason for that is because German is faster than French and English, pretty much every other language, for the intro section of the game alone. And during Sex Percent, we pretty much only play through the intro section, and then we go and have sex with Magnolia. Whereas in any percent, you do the intro, and then the other heavy dialogue part of the game is the memory den, where you go through Kellogg's memories. And in French, the memory den is incredibly fast. So the amount of time that German makes up for in the intro is completely negated and then passed up by the amount of time that French saves in the memory den. So that makes French the faster language overall, but German is faster for just if you're going to do an intro run, which is what this is. So we have to run and enter the vault. And then once we're in the vault, you just got to go and enter the the cryopod. I forgot to mention German. I think French is 1 second faster than German in the cryopod sequence with Kellogg. But the amount of time that German is faster during like the entire intro, what is it? The timing is like, I know I'm gonna get yelled at for messing up the numbers, and I just pulled the spreadsheet, but I think it's like German's like 3 seconds faster than French, for like entering the vault, and then French is 1 second faster inside of the vault, or maybe 2 seconds faster, something like that. German's only like 1 or 2 seconds faster than French. It's pretty negligible in the long run, but we have the German file, so may as well use them, right? So yeah, I had to just grab the vault suit and then go and stand in front of the pod, wait for the doctor to walk all the way over. I've noticed that in German, the doctor takes longer to walk all the way over. I don't know what the cause of that is. It's probably his voice line saying, "All right, let's go." But yeah, usually in French he's like a foot or two behind you, but in German he's several feet or meters, whatever unit of measurement this game uses. And then just play Tetris during the cutscene, you know, as usual, playing a game. When I was streaming a lot, if you are unaware, I haven't been streaming for the past 2 months, and won't be streaming for around the next 2 months, because I'm in the middle of a very difficult semester at school, and I would not be able to balance both streaming and making sure I pass all my classes. So I'm on streaming hiatus until pretty much late December. But every once in a while I'll find like an hour or two to play some games. So today I was just feeling motivated to play Fallout, so decided to grind for this. But yeah, when I was streaming, I was playing a lot of Pokemon, and I do intend to play Pokemon again once I start streaming again, but just because there's no chat interaction, and chat interaction was what made Pokemon great, then just not gonna do Pokemon right now. So I went back to the OG of Tetris as the first game that I played during the cutscenes. And yeah, I'm terrible at it, but who isn't really though? So once this cutscene ends, I'm going to be setting up a glitch called a punch warp. So the way punch warps work, whenever you go to melee attack something in bats, the game will, like, as long as you're within range for like the Matt's melee attack, what will happen is when you confirm your attack, the game will close the distance between you and what you're attacking, and then you'll, like, pretty much, there's like a set range that you have to be within though, and when you're within that range, you're within, like, the chance to hit the attack is 95%. So if you're within the range, when you try to attack something, the game automatically closes the distance. But what happens when you try to melee attack something that's like in a corner, or you're behind or it's like right next to an object, or you're like next to an object, what happens is when you go to melee attack it, the game pauses for a moment, because if it went through with that attack right away, then the game would either put you out of bounds or inside of an object, and the game doesn't like that. That's a no-no. So the game kind of pauses for a second, and you stay in first person. So when you do that, your guy just kind of stands there for a second, and I set one up right there. Like, it all happens really quick, so it's happening faster than I can explain it. But pretty much when you go to attack something and you're like lodged inside of an object or the items in the corner that you're attacking, the game will pause for a second and it'll stay in first person before going into the third person attack animation. And if you cancel the attack while the game is in that thinking state, while you're still in first person, then what happens is the game will store the coordinates of where you were standing when you set up the punch warp. So then what happens, it's like a two-part glitch. So your coordinates are stored, and it is actually stored through saves. Like you can quick save, you can load a different save, like set up a punch warp, you can load a different save on a different character and then trigger the punch warp. It's a global glitch that's only negated by either closing out of the game or dying. So that's why we reset the game between each run. But pretty much when you go to melee attack something in bats again, once you confirm your attack, the game is going to teleport you. It's going to warp you to the coordinates of where you set it up. The coordinates are like kind of set up. Every location, every cell has their own origin point that you like will see. Like sometimes you'll COC to it. That's a whole different thing that I could get into the semantics of, but every cell has its own coordinate points, and it has its own origin point. So you're going to pretty much get warped to an area around the origin of the cell, and the origin for the overworld, the Commonwealth, is pretty close to Green Tech. So we didn't get warped to the origin, but we got warped to an area pretty close to the origin, because you have to keep in mind that Vault 111, it has to contain its origin and then be numbered normally. So like it can only be so big. You can only get so far away from the coordinate 0, 0, 0. So when you set up anywhere inside the vault, you're going to end up at those coordinates in the Commonwealth, but it's going to be pretty close to the 0, 0, 0 point. But you do still get warped to those coordinates. You don't get warped to the origin point. So that's what I did when I ran up and tried to attack that the rad roach. Almost called it a cockroach because I haven't been playing Fallout too much. Pretty much I did that and I automatically got teleported to the middle of the map, which is right by Goodneighbor. So right now I'm just running in and entering Goodneighbor, and we don't take the normal entrance. There's actually a load zone for Goodneighbor all inside the boundaries of what Goodneighbor is supposed to pertain to. And you can actually get to that by running on top of this tanker, jumping on the ledge, and then jumping up and over the ledge into the alleyway. And we're now inside of Goodneighbor. You can tell that it's not a developer intended way to access Goodneighbor, because there's no fade to black time when you enter the load zone. You just immediately do it. You like immediately jump to the load screen. So then once you're inside Goodneighbor, we have to go to the third rail, which is where Magnolia is located. And we're going to pull out our weapon right before we enter. And the reason for that is Magnolia is singing when you enter, and you have to have her not be singing. There's two ways to do that. Either you can enter and leave a couple times, or you can just attack someone and aggro everyone inside, and then put away your weapon so everyone de-aggros, and she automatically stops singing. So then you talk to her again, and you just talk to her, pick any two dialogue options, and then you just mash the flirt option. And I've had like 2 or 3 really good paced runs for Sex Percent actually died because she said no, but it's pretty uncommon. I'd say it's probably like 1 in 15 chance of her actually saying no. But yeah, once the game fades to black, it's implied that you and Magnolia do the deed. You know, stick your bone in the dog pound. But yeah, that's Sex Percent. Then, as is tradition, beat the fuck out of Magnolia.
Muss es nur so still sein. Denkst du etwa, ich hab Angst?